And we're back.
Oh, welcome.
Welcome back.
Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back.
Shh, you want to get sued?
Oh, that's right. That was less than 3 seconds.
These
Wasn't
podcasts are so fun.
I don't. Yeah,
Probably.
they were good.
Who cares? It's not like we've got money for them to take anyway.
This is true.
We're taking your podcast. Oh no.
Hey, I'm not getting any younger. Come on.
I thought we were talking about representation.
Oh, right. Yes. Let's talk about representation.
Love it.
What about representation?
Good, bad, indifferent, hard to get, easy to get.
How to find them.
Well, that's all perfectly vague. Let's talk about how we got our representation, because I think it's different for everybody, right? So
Sure.
there's certainly, kind of some main guidelines, I suppose, that people can follow, but I don't think it's the same. Just like voiceover, it's not the same path for everybody.
Right.
Are we naming names?
We could, or we can keep it, so it's more applicable to everybody.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd
Well,
say.
I mean, different representation, like Will was saying, do different things. If they're an animation representation, I mean, does it hurt to throw that out in case someone's looking for that?
I don't know if I have anything that specific, at least not for me, not where I am right now. I know what you're saying. Like for me, I really, really love dubbing, and I would like to be on more dubbing rosters, right? So
Sure.
that may not be having a rep in so much as it might be looking for rosters to get on, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So that might be a
Okay.
little different. But I think it's a good blanket statement when it comes to voiceover. It's a little bit different than being an on-camera actor. When you're an on-camera actor, you might have an agent and a manager. You may only have a manager. You may only have an agent. But for voiceover, we can have multiple. And that's something that is definitely unique for us because, again, on-camera actors, usually you got one or the other. Once I learned oh, wait, I can have more than one agent. Is that okay? And how does that all work? Because it is very different. If you come from the on-camera world or if you were a singer or something like that, you really only worked with one agency for the bookings.
Sure.
Here it's different. So,
Yeah. Well, and it depends on who you talk to, too, a little bit. Some people will tell you, you don't need more than a couple agents. Those are probably usually agents that are saying that.
right. Oh, yeah.
There are definitely some that want you to be exclusive to them across the board, which, if you can guarantee that I'm going to make X amount of dollars by being exclusive with you across the board, then I will entertain that. Otherwise, I'm going to probably talk to you about a freelance arrangement or not at all.
Right.
So maybe we start there. What's the difference between actually being signed or being hip-pocketed / freelance? What is the difference? You're not officially on the roster if you're freelancing with them. They may not send you as much in terms of audition opportunities, or they might. I guess it's going to vary depending on the agent, I suppose, right?
So one of the things that I remember, and I kind of want to share this because I think it's important for all actors, voiceover, on camera, the same. There is a term called sign and shelve. So in particular, when you're thinking about your voice, and I know for me, I've been told, we love your stuff. We just have a couple of people that already sound like you.
Right.
So, I get in the mix with that, but now I'm competing with folks that are already signed on the roster. So why would I want to be signed and then shelved? Because they're going to give it to the folks they've been with longer,
Right.
who they know, like, and trust, versus giving the new talent they signed some other opportunities.
Sure.
So
you're saying I shouldn't feel bad about getting the rejection letter that says we've already got 5 guys
not
who
at all.
sound like
Be
you.
happy. Be like,
Yeah.
thank you very much for listening. Move along.
Exactly. I'm just glad they listened. Right. So no, that's fine.
Because I think that's a very precarious place to be, is if you do sound like that, because there are going to be other people that are going to sound similar to you, right? Everybody has their own voice print. There's some things that we do, it's finding what makes you unique to that agent that can help you book different things. Or, if you specialize in promo or radio imaging and, well, they've got another guy like you, but he's not doing radio imaging. He only does like one thing. He's not a promo guy. He maybe does just e-learning really well. Who knows? But the idea that you want that feedback. You want to know if there's other people that sound like you, which is a great segue into check out their roster. If they have it online where you can listen to them.
And most of them do.
Yeah, most of them, they should. Not all of them do. Some of them have it behind a wall, like a client wall where...
Yeah, but most of them have something.
Yeah.
Whether it's up to date or not is another question, but it seems like most of them have something and
some sort of voice sample.
Even if there's not a sample, even if you can just get a list of the names, you could still go do the legwork and find samples on their own websites.
And I think freelancing is great.
It's wonderful. I think so, yeah.
It also gives you that flexibility, right? So I'm freelancing with a few different voice agencies, and then I've got one that I've signed with that I know that in Chicago, anything in that Midwest zone, they get the priority. I will, because I think that happened just last week. I had of this, like 4 of my reps send me the exact same breakdown. So I knew I had to pick and choose. Who's it going to be?
Yeah.
Who, is it the person that came in first? But, oh, wait, it's the one I signed the exclusive, contract with that I have to give it to them. So,
which is a great topic.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm
first.
Only actually signed with one. I've got a couple others I freelance with, but that means that if I get it from multiple, they get it because I'm signed with them.
Right.
Now, other people argue that's not necessarily the case because, I'm still able to have representation elsewhere, and technically my exclusivity agreement is in a certain region. So if it doesn't originate from there, which is very difficult to tell with voiceover because it could be anywhere, then, there's an argument that they don't have a claim to that if it came from somewhere outside of there.
Right.
How I don't know how you would know. But there have been a few times where I've gotten something from someone else a day or two early and have submit, and then I get it and say, well, I already submit, and they get angry with me about that. But
right, we both had that where they're like, how dare you? We're like, but I got it.
Can't read your mind. I didn't know you were going to send this to me in 30 hours or whatever.
Well, here's another topic, and maybe another podcast. When you freelance, are those 1099?
Yeah, I think it probably depends.
I think most of them are. Like, I know that at the end of the day, so I funnel everything through my LLC as much as I can.
Sure.
Instead of having them pay direct talent, I'll have it go through my LLC. So that kind of changes the dynamic of how they pay me. I'm forgetting the term for it. Third party something. I can't remember what, a loan out. It's just a different way for taxes and everything else.
Taxes.
Yeah,
taxes. Make everything so much harder than it needs to be, and much more expensive.
Especially when they know exactly how much we owe them to begin with, but they're making us do math.
Doing like a national car brand for $50,000 shouldn't cost me $20,000.
For real.
No.
For real. Ever.
Ugh.
But I think when you get those conflicting, who booked it, who sent it to you first. I mean, there have been times where I got something where I was like, I wonder if this agency is going to send it to me because I know when, and it's kind of like you, Will, when you know that DDO has sent you something, they've curated that, they know that you have there's a reason why they sent it to you. I have the same relationship with KMR. They'll send me something and I know, there's a reason why they sent it to me. So there's times where I'll wait, but, time is of the essence most of the time. But usually when it comes in, sometimes it doesn't matter. But we also share a rep who let's do it now because they like to have stuff in early and be at the forefront because I will get it from everybody else and it'll be not till Monday, that particular rep, once it's Sunday afternoon. And you're like,
Saturday.
Okay. Sure. So you really, it's almost like you have to be a little bit business savvy, knowing who's going to fight for you to get it. And I think that's probably, for me, that's where the loyalty lies too. Like somebody who I've worked with for a really long time.
Yep.
And then someone who I know is going to go to battle for me to give me that role.
or get the pay for that role higher, right? Which I think is why sometimes it's slower because, you may get it hours earlier from one source, but, are they doing any work to try and, like, if the pay seems low, are they doing any effort to try and get it to, like, where it really ought to be? Or is it just, here's an opportunity, do it, do it, do it, do it?
Right.
In which case it's like, I feel
That's
like
a
I'm
good
on pay to
point.
play,
Yeah.
And I know that in some cases, that's why it's delayed. Because they're actively working on, like, trying to improve the budget if it was low or
Not
whatever.
a bad thing.
Whatever.
Right.
Not a bad thing,
But we don't know it sometimes, right?
No.
We don't know they're doing
and
it.
sometimes, casting has already had that battle and it's set and it is as far as it's going to be. And, so if they're going and trying to get it higher again and they're whatever, then maybe they're pissing off casting. So then casting, when they get stuff from them, is going, I don't want to look at these, or, who knows?
Yeah.
Well, one of the things that I have learned about casting, and it's not the pretty side of it, but it's relevant to this conversation, is I know that there's times that they're still sending it out to the reps and managers to get some options on the table, but they've got an offer out to celebrity talent, like a direct offer.
Sure.
And we're just the backup in
Right.
case the celebrity says no.
Right. Or they're going to bring us in to do the scratch track for the celebrity to copy or whatever.
Right? And then you're like, really?
Yeah. My person that I'm signed with in LA, I get 4 a week that are all fast turnaround. Got to have it in an hour and a half, and
That's hard.
yeah, sometimes it's possible. A lot of times it is, but not always. But you never know why. Why is everything such a fast turnaround?
Why do you
What are we
need this in
doing?
2 minutes?
Why now? I'm
Yeah.
busy.
Well, and it's tough if you have a day job, especially one that takes you away from the house.
Sure.
You know,
Which I do.
then there's nothing you can do about it.
Right.
Which is nice about the fact that the majority of stuff that is sent to me is usually due morning the next day. I'm here anyway. I could do it right now. Most days I could just hop in the booth and get it done.
Sure.
But I tend to batch them out at night.
I do too.
Just because I like being in the booth at night. The whole house is quiet. And
Right.
just, the atmosphere is right. I've always been a night owl anyway, so I feel like I'm just more in tune with everything at night.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm deluding myself. I don't know. I'd have to go back and look.
No, there's less
The
distractions.
things
I
that I've
totally
booked,
go with that.
did I book them
Completely.
when I auditioned at night or when I auditioned during the day? I should
Right?
look at that. Maybe it'll change my outlook on things.
That's math. Don't do it.
I'm not anti-math. I'm a software
He likes-
engineer.
He likes math.
Yeah.
I'm the one who's going.
I don't like math. I don't like
Nerd.
math, but I understand it's important.
Well, and I think and sometimes that
everything
math
is math.
takes a point. It takes are you getting it from someone who's going to take a higher commission? Or are you going to take it from, because man, I can do the math on commission like that. No problem.
Well, speaking of that, that's a topic that came up on social media a couple times this week, interestingly. Multiple people were asking about, when you've both used voices, right?
Yeah.
So when you answer a job and you give your quote, they've got 2 fields you can fill out. You can fill out, your quote, or you can fill out what's delivered to that. I don't know what they're called, but there's a left and a right. And the value on the left, you say, I want to be paid, $1,000. Then the value on the right populates to $1,250. It's 25% more.
Right.
But if you put $1,250 or $1,000 or whatever in that box, then the value on the left populates 20% less. Well, that's because percentages don't work the same way as just straight numbers, right? So I've explained this multiple times. I might as well do it again here. So
Oh, please.
if you take 20% from 1,000, you're left with 800. Okay.
Right.
To get back to 1,000, you have to add 25% of the 800, or a quarter of it, to get back to 1,000. It doesn't mean that they're charging 25% or they're taking 25%. They're taking 20%. But if you say, I want $1,000 on this, and they're going to take 20% of the overall job, they have to add the 25% to what you're saying you want so that they get their 20% and you get what you want. So they're not charging a higher percentage. I understand how people can get to that point, but that's not how percentages work.
Right.
It's
and
not.
also, that's actually good because a lot of times you'll see the things where an agency plus 10% or plus 20 or whatever it is.
Right. Yep.
It's really important because I've had this explained to me, and I don't know if I'm going to do a good job at explaining this out, but it's not from what that number is already. So the agreements that you have with your representation, if it's 10% or if it's 20%, doesn't matter. They are entitled to that off what you're making for the spot. So going back to another $1,000, right? They're going to get their $100 if it's a 10% commission. If they're getting another 10%, they're not double dipping.
It would be helpful, I think, if those plus 10 or 20% things weren't on the specs that we see.
Exactly.
Because none of that is for us anyway.
Correct.
That plus 10% or plus 20% is the agent fee. It's a little like thing to entice them.
It's a finder's fee.
Yeah, it's a thing to entice them to, hey, find me somebody for this job.
Right. So yes,
Right.
they're getting double, but they're not taking double from you. They're still going to just take the $100.
Right. So
but they're getting extra. Yeah.
Right. So that plus 10% or that plus 20%, that was never yours, ever.
Right. Ever.
So
I really wish they would keep that off there.
Yeah,
ignore it.
Doesn't need to be.
You know, when it says $1,500 plus 20%, you're not getting, $750 or whatever. I'm not doing the math. See, I'm not doing that.
Wow. Okay.
Way to go.
But it is really interesting because I think a lot of folks, including myself, was like, wait, they're double dipping. But then when I looked at it, I was like, well, the 10% didn't mean I was getting paid $1,100 or $1,100. That would have been easier to say.
Yep. $1,100. Yep.
So it's just really, makes everything very convoluted. And I think if they would just keep that off of there, that's a great idea. I wish they would just not do that at all.
I mean, I totally get it because the first time that I saw that, the first couple times maybe that I saw that, I was like, oh, cool. It's a little bit more like that. That 1,000 is kind of the baseline.
Yeah.
They're saying we're going to pay you a little bit more, right? Like it's like SAG scale, right?
Yeah. Well, I thought I was going to get the whole $1,000.
They're going to pay me a little bit more than scale, or we're adding this 20% to cover your agent's fee so that you get this 1,000. But that's not it.
That's not it. They're still going to take their 10% or 20%, whatever your agreement is with your agent, with your reps. And it took me. It took a while to do that. I was like, I don't like that.
That may not be the case for some agents. I suppose some agents might just say, well, okay, that's our fee. We'll take that. And then you get the amount. But since they're entitled to take it if they want, I don't know why they wouldn't.
They're definitely entitled to do so. But, I mean, it just,
that's
an important
whatever agreement you have.
thing to know.
Right.
It's not an icky thing. And if they are doing that, that's icky. But it's usually, that's an incentive coming from the casting side or the production side. But
now, I have heard somebody say recently, I don't know who they were talking about, but they said there was somebody that took, say it was $1,000 plus 20%. They'd take the 20%, obviously, but then they would calculate their cut, their 10 or 15% or whatever, based on the 1,200, not based on the 1,000. In that case, that is kind of a double dip because they're taking a bigger cut, right? That plus whatever percentage should not be part of that calculation at all. That's yours. That's your tip. Right.
Yeah, exactly. It's a tip. I like it that way. God, I hate tip culture. Anyway, back to reps. You can have multiple. You should take a good look at their roster to see if you would fit on there. And also check around, see who's repped by them and be like, do you have a relationship with that voice actor? Reach out and ask them, hey, do you enjoy that working relationship? It helped me with one particular agency that I wasn't sure about. I was getting mixed messages. Someone was like, oh, watch out working with them. I was like, oh my gosh, they're great. They're very, they're going to communicate with you. They'll talk with you. So I was like, I didn't know what to believe.
They don't give information openly like that.
Well, you got to ask. You have to ask.
No, nobody shares any inside information ever.
No way.
But sometimes when you get that, it is one of those, I think it helps you with trying to identify red flags and, getting the mixed messages. And it does kind of help guide your decision. Just because an agent says, yes, we'd like to have you on the roster, you still want to know if that's the right thing for you.
Especially if it's your first agent and you've been trying to get one for a while. And so it's like, oh my God, somebody said yes.
Yeah. Is it the right one? Or is it just...
Did the right person say yes? Or you
and
just
now you're in a
at the
2-year
first
contract?
Chance. Right.
Yeah.
Or are you so eager that you get shelved and you don't even know it?
Sure.
Exactly. Yeah. That's important to know. And, asking for a referral isn't easy. But I think it's helpful And not just from voice actors, but, from your coaches,
Yeah,
from
referrals from coaches and producers and casting and stuff have way more weight
a lot more
than
weight.
something from fellow talent.
Yeah.
If the talent has a good relationship with the agent and they've been with them for a while and they say, hey, you should check
Right.
out my friend. They're really good. That's one thing.
That's got a little weight.
Well, and also when you send something, like, for example, Will, when there was something that came through and there was a male part and a female part on there, I should say role. But there was, an opportunity for you to do that because, again, you could do it in your sleep. That started that relationship because I
Right.
said, hey, are you open to a referral on this? This is a really
Right.
great opportunity. I'm just, I didn't know what they were going to say. And,
Right.
Sure.
but that can work,
Mhm.
right? But it's not a guarantee, obviously, but
Yeah,
it's
and I refer people to my agent all the time when they're looking for something specific they don't have
right.
that
Right.
I know of someone or can quickly find someone
Yeah.
who, matches that spec.
And that's a great opportunity,
Yeah, and it doesn't mean you're going to get signed, but you get to get sent the audition and give them your best shot, and maybe you book it.
Right.
And, if you book it, maybe they hip pocket you. Maybe they don't. But I mentioned on a podcast just a week or two ago that, I had referred Troy Holden on it was a medical spot, I think, that they wanted a Southern gentleman, and he booked it. It was a SAG gig. It was his first SAG gig. And
That's awesome.
they haven't signed him. They haven't had any kind of conversation with him about that, but they have sent him a few other auditions since.
See?
So
good enough.
He's on their radar that they, think of him, then he gets it.
Yeah. And I think having those conversations too, when you're at conferences, you can find out who's with whom. And especially now with everything that kind of went down with A3.
That
There's
was
kind of
crazy.
Very crazy. The importance of research, though.
Yeah, for sure.
We've talked about that before in a lot of different things. It's important to research who, understand what's going on in the industry even, right?
Yeah.
Knowing that there's been some shakeups, knowing that, people are moving around, including agents. I actually did a workshop with, he was at Atlas, and now he's over doing casting for Disney.
Sure.
Like, wait a second. You're no longer doing the agent thing.
Right.
You totally went over to casting side and said, see ya. So, pay attention to that.
Ask.
Ask and find out, well, hey. And it's great to have those connections too. Like if you're connected with somebody on LinkedIn, you can congratulate them on their new role. And hey, that's interesting that you did that.
I mean, it's very much beneficial, who you know, more so than what you know or can do to a point. I mean, obviously, you still have to have talent, whatever, but networking with people throughout the industry in various roles, it opens up opportunities, but it also just keeps you abreast of what's going on. Because I hadn't heard anything about the A3 stuff, right? Until I read a post from a casting director on LinkedIn.
Right.
Yeah.
And it was vague.
Like, wait,
and I was like,
what?
what's going on? And I went and looked it up, and then I found out. Then I found the Variety article or whatever. But, I don't live in LA, so I don't religiously read the trades,
Makes sense. But I mean, it does go back to kind of like having that connection on LinkedIn helped because you found out what's going on. Shoot, there was something else I wanted to piggyback on that, and now I can't remember.
Well, and just like all the advice that's been going around that we've given and other people have given on social media lately of, vetting coaches and demo producers and same thing for agents, it can be a double-edged sword to a point, though. There are certainly circumstances where people have just decided that somebody's no good. And, if anybody asks, that's all that gets thrown around is, whatever conjecture about, oh, they're no good, they're a scam or they're whatever. Well, have you ever worked with them? Do you know that? Or are you just assuming that for whatever
speculation.
reason? Right.
Right.
So you got to take the good with the bad and do your best to sort it out. I mean, you can't,
You take them both and there you have the facts of life.
That's,
check things out. Don't repeat everything you hear.
That's true. There really was something I wanted to add to that, and now I can't remember. Save my life.
Obviously wasn't important.
Something of true meaning, I'm sure.
Well, I think it was, it was checking in with folks to see about the changes, because it's so fluid in this industry. Like somebody who was an agent has now decided, oh, I want to be a manager now. Or a manager has become a talent agent. I've seen that. Or they go into casting, or, maybe they just get out of the industry. Oh, I know what it is. Okay. With people moving around, a lot of folks don't give assistants or associates enough credit. These people are the next big agent.
Yeah.
They're the ones who are, they're starting to get a feel for, well, what do I have to do to book a client? And what, they're learning all the ropes. They're the next agent you want to get in front of.
Right.
So the way you treat, in fact, I happen to know that my very first agent that I got in New York, I was first vetted by the assistant who got the email. She's the one that they pointed out. They said she made sure not only did she forward your email after listening to your demos, she walked into my office and made sure that I listened to it.
Nice.
Right? So, and I still keep in contact with her. She's actually outside of the industry now, but the idea that she was so helpful for my stuff getting to where it needs to be. So a lot of times when you're reaching out to that agent, it's still getting that first pass through an assistant. Yeah. And so, just be aware of that. We're all kind of learning this together. And sometimes those associate agents or junior agents, I think they call them,
right,
get a chance to know them because they are moving around. They might end up in casting someplace too.
They may become an agent at another agency, which...
At the one you've been targeting for the last 5-6 years or whatever.
That just happened with one of the assistants from DDO just last year, I think. He left and went to a agency, and he's managing like comedy talent and stuff now.
Right.
Before that, he was an assistant. So I could reach out. We didn't have a lot of a relationship, but I definitely had interacted with him before. So if I were, pursuing something that was relevant to that, I feel like I could reach out to him because there's the pre-existing sort of relationship. Like he at least would have an idea who I am, so that's cool.
But talk about like the way you got your agent was you did a workshop, right?
Yeah, I did a workshop, right. So, I've gone through the normal channels of, submitting to various agencies and so forth, and never really got much response, or the response was, we're not interested at this time, try back in 6 months or a year or whatever, or no response at all. But I did a workshop that was led by my current agent. And I guess I just impressed her live on Zoom.
And sometimes that's all it takes. Like, just listen to me. I can do this.
And so then, I shot her an email the next morning and thanked her for the time and so forth. And she was, very interested in sharing my performance from the night before with the rest of the team.
Which is awesome.
So that's how that happened. It's not going to happen that way
for
everybody.
But research. No, absolutely. No. Can you imagine everybody that you workshop with now signs you?
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
I have more agents than I know what to do with.
Actor's dream, yes.
But, relationships are ultimately what it's all about in terms of representation, in terms of bookings, direct clients, ongoing business, all of it. It's all relationship based. And, step one is just getting in the room or on the Zoom.
Sometimes they're the local room. They're the local, they're the regional, and those are great too.
And maybe it's just an email. Maybe you're not in person. Maybe you're not on Zoom. Maybe it's not a phone call. Maybe it's just email. But you start the conversation.
Well, in your instance, Will, maybe you couldn't get in. I'm not going to say this is the exact situation, but maybe your demo wasn't what they were listening for.
Yeah, maybe.
But they saw you live and you had the chops.
Yeah.
And that's all it took.
Yep.
So if you're going to do that, make sure you've got the chops. Make sure you're ready.
And especially, if you're not getting results from a local agent, it might not be that, you're no good or they've got 5 of you on the roster already or whatever. It might be that you just sound too big market for what they do, right? If you're trying to talk to a small town agent and they're casting cable access commercials or, whatever, it's all like local mom and pop shops and stuff. And your demo is all big national brands and, car ads.
They're like, we're not going to be able to book this guy for $50.
We can't afford this guy.
It sounds great, but you don't sound like small town, Louisiana or whatever. You do.
Sure.
Oh, I do.
Yeah. He's like, wait,
you at least
that's
sound,
directed
you at least
at me.
sound like
me.
big town Louisiana.
Yeah.
Love it.
Oh, happy Mardi Gras, by the way, tomorrow.
Is it tomorrow?
You can add
Mardi Gras.
Maybe it is.
Yeah.
Oh, shoot. What is it?
Fat
Something bon
Fat
temps.
Tuesday?
No. Let the good times roll en français.
It's been a long
Do you
time
know
since I
that?
took French.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, it's a long time since I've had to say that.
Roulé, something. I don't know.
Yeah, laissez brûler, something.
Les bon
Let the good
temps.
times roll.
Oh,
Have a
good
drink.
times. I got the good times. Yeah. Okay.
When is Mardi Gras?
Yeah.
It's sometime.
Day before Ash Wednesday. You can't just give me a date?
Yeah, that helps. Nope.
No, because it moves every year.
Well, Ash
'Cause Easter
Wednesday
moves every year.
is this Wednesday. So
Yep.
Mardi Gras is actually tomorrow.
So tomorrow is.
Oh,
yeah.
well, shit. I thought you were planning ahead
Well,
for the
shit.
podcast because this will play in like 3 weeks.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
And I just assumed it was in.
Go back in time to Mardi Gras.
So,
Yeah.
hope you had a great Mardi Gras by the
There
time
you
this
go.
one airs.
Here we go.
If you had a great Mardi Gras, you're just waking up.
Yeah.
Happy St. Patrick's
We
Day if that's
circled
coming
back.
up.
We
We'll circle
circled
back.
back.
Oh, dang. You
Wham, wham.
didn't.
You saw what I did there.
I did.
I circled back.
I did. I don't know. Circle back season is over. Officially over. No. All right.
Let's go!
I'm going to go back to the same thing we've said multiple times before. Do your research. Ask around. Check out everything online that you possibly can. Do some workshops, but research.
Yep. They're not the end of the business for you. Always continue marketing.
Yep. Even when you have an
Good one.
agent, you got to do your own work. Yeah, they're not the end all be all, but they can certainly help with access to things you might not otherwise get on your own. So when you're ready, take your shot. Get in front of them. Do a workshop. Get in their email. Follow the official submission guidelines.
Yes, please.
But,
Yes.
if you happen to be at a conference or something like that, walk up and say hi.
Mhm.
Not
Give them 10 or 12 business cards.
of other people. Not
Oh,
when,
no.
not when they're eating.
No.
And not when they're in the bathroom.
No,
But,
don't stalk your potential agent that you'd really like to have.
They're
That's not good.
in the hall and, you have a moment you can say hi and...
Have your elevator speech ready.
Sure, but
That's important.
maybe better just to introduce yourself and have an actual human conversation. You don't always have to be pitching because it's about the relationship.
That's true.
And
Yeah, but I might talk about my dogs and my cats too much, so
some agents might be into that.
that's true.
And then that's one that you
Yikes.
probably have a great relationship with that you would love to work with for a long time.
Indeed.
So,
Good point.
All
All right.
Work all the time with that.
all the time.
All day long, all the time. Yep.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.